The School of Demons, another tragic case making the local news in Edinburgh. A family drama has unfortunately been in the news a lot. A so-called family murder, often involving husbands who react in this way due to an argument with the threat of divorce. But in this case, it was the wife who mixed arsenic into the food, killing her husband, her 7-year-old son, and herself. Only 14-year-old Elena survived by a miracle. Where her mother got the arsenic from is still unclear. In any case, there are no other relatives who can take Elena in. So Child Protection Services found a private boarding school for the little girl outside Edinburgh, somewhat remote from a small town. There she will live and be cared for until she is 18 and has completed her education at the private school. Elena is sitting at a table in the officer's office, drinking hot chocolate. She hears the officer talking on the phone to the boarding school. Yes, she's very upset by the incident. She's 12 years old. There are a few places available, which is wonderful. Good. Tomorrow we'll bring the girl to you. The officer hangs up the phone and says to Elena, I have good news. I've found you a place at a boarding school. They have accommodations and food every day. Elena asks shyly, which boarding school will I be in? The official enters the address into a Google Maps and replies, the school is located in the heart of the Scotland woodlands. This building has been a school for centuries and reopened 3 months ago after years of renovation. Elena doesn't like the idea of being placed in such a remote location. But she knows that, given her situation, she should be glad that she's getting help. Perhaps it's a nice location, and maybe she'll meet some friends there. Elena slept very restlessly that night. One reason was the unfamiliar surroundings. The room in the aid station was equipped with only a bed and a toilet, and there was a barred window. Elena felt like she was in prison. She also dreamed of her dead family. It was a wild nightmare. Her father, mother, and little brother stood next to an empty coffin and said together, "We're coming for you, Elena." She woke up drenched in sweat and couldn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, she's sitting at the table in the cafeteria. A volunteer prepares her breakfast. It's scrambled eggs with sausage and waffles. As much as Elena likes this breakfast, she can't eat a bite. She only sips a little orange juice. The volunteer doesn't say anything to her. She's heard about the tragedy and silently accepts it. While Elena was having breakfast, the driver had already packed all her things into the car. Immediately after breakfast she gets into the vehicle and her journey into her new life begins. Headmaster McLeod was sitting at his desk when there was a knock at his door. It was one of the orderlies who look after the sleeping children at night. He looked very tired and out of breath. The headmaster said, annoyed, "Do you have to run through the school building like that?" The orderlies replied, out of breath, "One of the children, a boy, disappeared overnight. There are no clues. One of the children who sleeps in the same room claims that the creatures of the night, the so-called night owls, took him." The headmaster became furious. "That's just a load of rubbish. The brat has run away. I'm calling the police. Let's see how far the boy gets." Of all days, This had to happen today, the day we get a new student. After a brief pause for thought, the headmaster continued, "I'll call the police. Perhaps they can find the runaway this time." The headmaster recalled 2 other runaways who had vanished without a trace. Since this boarding school only houses orphans, there are no places, such as their families, where they could look. "Thank you for the message. You may go," the headmaster said to the orderlies, sitting down in his chair with a worried look. No sooner had the orderly closed the headmaster's door than the headmaster's face transformed into a grinning grimace. He and his subordinates, posing as teachers, were behind the children's disappearances. At night, they transformed into creatures the students called night owls, stalking through the woods and the school, snatching up anyone who wasn't careful. He was already looking forward to the new arrival, a teenager named Elena, his next intended victim. No one would miss her. Her entire family was gone. A demonic laugh escaped him. Meanwhile, Elena is driven through the wildly romantic Scottish countryside. She doesn't say a word. She doesn't know what's in store for her. The driver also says nothing, simply fulfilling his duty to get the girl to the boarding school as quickly and safely as possible. The driver travels north from Edinburgh towards the Highlands. There, the landscape consists mainly of mountains and forests. It is very sparsely populated. Most people live in Glasgow, Aberdeen, and Edinburgh. The forests are ancient and mostly untouched. The Scottish pine trees look particularly ancient. Many legends and eerie tales are associated with the Scottish woodlands. Uncanny creatures are said to roam there. The forest looks very green and is densely overgrown. Even the roads seem darker here because they are so narrow. There's very little traffic out here in the woodlands. Elena doesn't like it. She's used to the hustle and bustle of the city. It makes her feel even more alone. The drive seems quite long and endless. In the distance, she sees a large, old building that reminds her of a castle. The driver says, "We're almost there. Do you see that big building there in the middle of the woods? That's the boarding school where you'll be cared for." Elena doesn't say anything. The driver turns onto a forest track and reaches the boarding school after about half an hour. A high fence surrounds the school. Only a heavy steel gate provides access. Elena doesn't like the look of it. It reminds her of a prison. The driver honks the horn, and the gate slowly opens. The driver pulls into the courtyard and the gate closes automatically. The director is already waiting for them, a broad smile on his face. Elena doesn't like the look of it. Her instincts tell her, "Careful. Something's not right here." The headmaster opened the car door and said to Elena, "Welcome, Elena. We've been waiting for you." A sly grin spread across his face as he continued, "I'm the headmaster and owner of this McLeod property. This land has been in my family for centuries. My ancestors used this building as a castle. Then, in the 19th century, it was used as an insane asylum and was abandoned for many decades after a devastating fire. 5 years ago, I decided to renovate this building and use it as a boarding school for orphans." McLeod paused briefly to see if Elena had a question. Seeing her standing rooted to the spot, Unable to utter a word, the headmaster continued. "It's our first year at the school, and I must urgently request that you stay in your room at night. It's a very old building with a dark past. Any further questions? If not, I'm giving you the day off so you can settle into your room. Breakfast is at 7 a.m., lunch is at 12:30 p.m., and dinner is at 6 p.m. Your classes will begin tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. My assistant will provide you with your school uniform and other necessary items. Please follow me." Elena took her luggage and followed McLeod into the large, eerie building. Elena feels like she's in a Harry Potter movie. The building does resemble the architectural style a bit, but she doubts anyone here can actually do magic. Right after the entrance is a small office. Director MC Lloyd calls out, "Francis, do you have a moment, please? We have a new student." A voice from the office replies, "Yes, Mr. MC Lloyd. I'm coming." A tall, thin, dark-haired man of Mediterranean appearance and middle age emerges from the office. MC Lloyd says to him, "This is Elena. Give her bedding, meal tickets, a school uniform, the current timetable, and the house rules. Also, show her the room where she'll be staying." Francis briefly replies, "Yes, sir," and the headmaster then leaves them and goes about his duties. Francis says somewhat shyly, "Hi." Elena replies with the same greeting. Francis continues, "Welcome. Welcome to the School of Demons." Elena looks at him in surprise and asks, "What do you mean by School of Demons?" Francis sighs and says, "Recently, another student disappeared. The teachers say he ran away. The police can't find him. No one will miss him, since he has no relatives left. Just like you and the other orphans here. Among the students, there are rumors about sightings of strange creatures at night. They call them night owls. Be careful and stay in your room at night. Another thing I've noticed is that none of the teachers here eat or drink. They just sit in the cafeteria, watching the students and not saying a word." Elena looks very thoughtful, and Francis then says to her, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. If anything strange happens, you can always come to me. Okay, I'll show you your room, and later, once you've unpacked everything, I'll give you your school uniform and anything else you'll need here." Elena simply says, "Okay." And then Francis leads her to the west wing of the building where the orphans' rooms are located. Elena notices the many old paintings and tapestries hanging on the walls. She suspects they are old portraits of people who must have lived here at some point. Francis leads her up a spiral staircase to the left, and before them stretches a long corridor with several rooms. The rooms are labeled with names, and Francis walks with her almost to the end of the corridor, where one room already bears Elena's name. Francis says, "This is your room, Elena. The toilet and shower are right across the hall." Francis points to the door marked, "Restroom and shower." "As I said, come to my office later, and I'll give you everything else." He then hands her the key and heads back to his office. Elena slowly opens her room door and is quite astonished. It's furnished like something out of the 18th century, with an old, well-restored wardrobe for her belongings and a four-poster bed. There's also an antique writing desk that she can use as both a desk and a cabinet. She also notices, to her dismay, that there's no television, which actually fits the room's old-fashioned style perfectly. She realizes that she has arrived at the School of Demons. What she doesn't know is that dark plans are already being made for her.